What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got several major things to go over here in our country right now here. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed the legislation to avert a catastrophic rail strike, but this is only part of the problem. It still has to go to the Senate, and whether the workers or not will actually abide by it is another issue as well. So we're gonna have to see here what will happen. You guys can, well, we'll see here. Here's U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg with some information. Take a listen.
What's going on here? We know this passed the House. Do you have the votes in the Senate?
That's right. So the House took action, and now it's up to the Senate to get a bill to the president's desk. And while the cutoff date for a shutdown is the 9th, a week from tomorrow, we would see impacts much sooner than that, because if there's even the possibility of a shutdown, about 5 days in advance of that, the railroads would have to begin winding down their acceptance of things like hazardous material shipments that you can't allow to get stranded. So my goal today, speaking to the senators, will be to make sure they understand the implications of a shutdown or even getting close to a shutdown. It wouldn't just bring down our rail system, it would really shut down our economy. And I want to make sure there's a clear sense of that from a transportation perspective. Now, Congress is not always known for swift bipartisan action, but that is what we saw yesterday on the House side, a major bipartisan vote. It moved very quickly when Speaker Pelosi brought it to the floor. I am hopeful that the Senate will also be able to move quickly to prevent the economic consequences that would come from a shutdown.
We had a lawyer who represents many of the unions involved in this yesterday on the show, and he said that these are threats from the railroad companies that they would shut things down early. You're saying that there's a real reason for that, the reason they would have to stop accepting, the reason the deadline is really sooner than December 9th.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example from Amtrak. So, you've got a lot of passengers going out on round-trip tickets. So Amtrak's not going to wait until the moment of a shutdown in order to start issuing cancellations or warnings, because you don't want a passenger to get stranded. And as bad as it is for a passenger to get stranded, you can imagine the implications if a shipment of hazardous materials gets stuck, which is why you would start to see those wind-down effects. But again, the bigger point I want to make sure everybody understands is there is no substitute in the American transportation system for a functioning freight rail network. There are not enough trucks, not enough barges, not enough ships in this country to make up for the consequences if we didn't have freight rail. It's one of the reasons why there's the Railway Labor Act that creates the power for Congress and the president to step in, something that is done with great reluctance. As you know, this is an administration that feels passionately about the pro-union stances that the president has taken on everything from having the first card-carrying member in, I think, decades as the labor secretary to the commitment to Buy America. We're in a situation right now where the tentative agreement that was reached at the bargaining table by labor leaders and companies a couple of months ago is the clearest path forward to getting something resolved, moving forward, getting increased and enhanced pay for those workers, and critically, especially as we go into this holiday season, keeping goods moving in America.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. This was negotiated not just by the companies and the labor union leaders, but it was also signed off on and overseen by the Presidential Emergency Board that weighed in and made sure that this was going to be a fair deal. You had 8 or 9 of the unions involved actually ratify it already. What happened with the holdouts? To see the administration run by Joe Biden, who calls himself the most, union-sensitive, the most labor-friendly president in history, to see them move like this, were they just asking for far too much?
Look, there were 12 unions that were party to this deal. 8 of them ratified, but 4 of them did not, and that reflects a large number of the workers involved. Workers are understandably concerned about, they feel that even being able to use the unpaid sick days that they do technically have is almost impossible because of the attendance policies of the railroads. That was one concern that they had. There were concerns about pay, concerns about health care, and all of those got weighed at the bargaining table. I think the final product, that tentative agreement, is not something that any one party would say they got all that they wanted. Nobody would say it was perfect, but it does reflect the results of that bargaining. And where we are now is a situation where it is almost unthinkable. What would happen to the U.S. economy if we reach the point of a shutdown? We're talking about energy refineries that would be unable to ship out their byproducts. They have minimal storage on site, which means at a certain point they would simply have to stop operations. And for a refinery, that's obviously once you stop, not something you can just throw a switch and start again. Dairy farmers who rely on rail both in order to get the feed in and in order to get their products out. Food generally, especially with regard to grain and baked goods, you would start seeing spot shortages fairly quickly in the context of a shutdown. My department estimates 765,000 workers would be laid off within the first 2 weeks, and it would only get worse from there. Look at the auto industry. Auto assembly plants typically only have 1 to 2 days of parts on hand, so it wouldn't take long before they were unable to operate. I hate sounding like the ghost of Christmas future here, but I just want to make sure everybody, especially right now the decision makers in the Senate who have this before them, understand the implications of what would happen if Washington allowed this to move toward a shutdown.
Yeah, so you can see here how serious this is going forward. So the House of Representatives has passed it. The Senate still has to work on it. And of course, as always, Republicans and Democrats in Congress have very different views on what should happen. As always, it's so ironic that in Congress we have just completely different views. Is it like that in life? Do we always have polar opposites of half the country? You guys can let me know your thoughts here, um, of whether you think that or not. 'Cause some people do, some people don't. Speaking of that, GOP stands for Grand Old Party, aka the Republican Party. New committee leaders prepare blitz of new investigation now that they have the House majority. House Republicans are promising aggressive oversight of the Biden administration once they assume the majority next year, with a particular focus on the business dealings of President's son, Hunter Biden, and illegal immigration at the U.S. Mexico border and the origins of the pandemic. Republicans won't have enough votes to advance key legislative priorities if there is no Democratic buy in. But their oversight of governmental agencies could put Democrats on the defensive and dampen support for the Biden administration going into the 2024 elections, which is still 2 years away. Some of the lawmakers expected to lead those investigations once House Republicans select their new committee chairs are Representative Jim Jordan, the Republican from Ohio, is expected to serve as the next chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He helped and then lead the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus and voted on January 6, 2021 to object to counting Pennsylvania's electoral vote. You guys can let me know your thoughts on that. President Donald Trump thought so highly of Jordan that he presented the congressman with the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The Judiciary Committee handles oversight of the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security and issues such as crime, immigration, and protection of civil liberties. It's typically one of the most partisan committees on Capitol Hill, yet Jordan's combative style stands out even there. The committee would be the place where any effort would begin to impeach a member of the Biden administration, as some Republicans have been proposing for Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Jordan says all those things need to be investigated just so you have the truth. Plus, that will frame up the 2024 race when I hope and I think President Trump is going to run again, and we need to make sure that he wins. Quote. Also, Representative James Comer, from Republican from Kentucky, is expected to serve as the next chairman of the House Oversight and Reform Committee and has made clear that investigating President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, will be one of his top priorities. Republicans say that investigating of Hunter Biden's business dealings is to determine whether these activities compromise U.S. national security and President Biden's ability to lead with impartiality. Comer said Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press, quote, "We're going to investigate between 40 and 50 different things." Wow. Quote, "We have the capacity. We have 25 members on the committee, and we're going to have a staff close to 70. We have the ability to investigate a lot of things." Also, the Republican Party having a bit of a problem with each other on several different fronts here. Remember, former President Donald Trump just met with Kanye West and also with Fuentes, Nick Fuentes, which Trump granted this meeting with them because remember, he has Secret Service and nobody can just meet with Trump. Trump has to allow anybody to meet with them. Well, Nick Fuentes is, questionable to say the least. Here's what Mitch McConnell had to say. Remember, Mitch McConnell is the leader of the Republicans in the Senate and has been for many, many years. Take a listen.
Over on the Senate side, where Minority Leader Mitch McConnell there in just the last hour is making his first remarks on that dinner that former President Trump had with a noted white nationalist and Holocaust denier, a noted anti-Semite. Here's what Mitch McConnell had to say.
There is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy. And anyone meeting with people advocating that point of view, in my judgment, are highly unlikely to ever be elected President of the United States.
So here's the thing. Right after that, McConnell was asked if he would still vote for Donald Trump should he win the party's 2024 presidential nomination. Didn't say yes, didn't say no, but you've got the Minority Leader's comments, the most powerful Republican in the Senate's comments, coming as a chorus of lawmakers in the GOP have called out Mr. Trump for hosting this dinner, which also featured the platinum-selling rap artist who has also made anti-Semitic comments recently. Of course, that's Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West.
Of course, Trump fired back at Republican leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, calling him, quote, "a loser for our nation," after he and you can see a other list of Republicans did not approve of that dinner. Remember, Trump had to grant access to these guys. They can't just get past Secret Service. Here's what Trump had to say. Trump said, quote, "Mitch is a loser for our nation and for the Republican Party, who would not have been reelected in Kentucky without my endorsement, which he begged me for because he was going down," Trump told Fox News. Quote, "His well-financed opponent had $93 million ready to spend when I drove him from 2 points down to 21 points up in a matter of days." Honestly, I'm not so sure about this one. Both Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi somehow, some way, again, I'm not from either party, but somehow, some way, they both win by a landslide every single time. You guys can let me know your thoughts here on this, but I mean, you can tell me in the comments, but they win no matter what and have for decades and decades. I mean, Mitch McConnell has been there before Trump was even in politics. He's been the majority and the minority leader for the Republican Party for a long time, even before Trump was even a political figure, when he was just a businessman. So, you know, I don't know. But this is, the Republican Party's having a lot of turmoil. The Democratic Party is more, at least on the same page, I guess. You do have Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, but those two seem to be the two that are really not so much there. Everybody else somewhat together there. But yeah, it seems like a never-ending saga in Congress. Yeah, and then now we're going to be going into a new cycle here, which will be interesting. I'll keep you up to date here. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. And click the bell icon after you subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos, which come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thanks so much for liking and sharing our videos. I will keep you up to date here. We're also going to be giving away a ton of money here for December as well, for the Christmas holidays. And also I'll be announcing the winners here for the rest of the Thanksgiving stuff. We're just behind because we had COVID. And, we just got back from our Disney trip and everything just kind of got pushed behind, when my wife was literally sick in bed for like 7 days or so, and yeah, we missed some videos, and trust me, having COVID's not fun. So we're a little bit behind, and I have to send some people out some gift cards too for some people that didn't have PayPal or Venmo or anything like that. I haven't even gone to the store. Like literally, I had COVID and stuff. So uh, to say the least, I mean, it's been crazy. So yeah, I gotta physically go to the store and buy some gift cards and stuff. So if sending out PayPal or Venmos is just a lot easier, but we were literally in bed for a bunch of days there. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything, and we're gonna be doing a whole nother like trivia stuff here for December as well. Hopefully we don't get sick again. My son's been sick 4 times since preschool started. Yeah, crazy. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can click here to watch my newest video next, and you can also click this video here to see new checks that are going out to millions of people that you might not even know about. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.